There we go. It's Snazzy, ladies and gentlemen.
That's funny.
He's in the building. Snazzy, thank you for joining me tonight. How's your weekend going?
Absolutely wonderful. I hope you got your drink.
I did. Have you got a drink?
Absolutely.
Cheers. Chat, do you have a drink? I'm drinking, as I said, lamb's rum and Coke tonight.
Cheers.
What are you drinking, Snazzy? Cheers.
Rum.
Rum as well?
And Coke.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. I respect it. It's simple, but it gets the job done.
It's a very nice thing to have, especially on a weekend.
Exactly.
Just chilling.
And what a weekend it is. Maginot just dropped. I imagine you guys are busy keeping a track on that. How are things over there at Periscope?
Ooh, they're fine. I think a lot of people are looking forward to the holiday. A lot of our developers are, looking forward to spending time away from doing Post Scriptum for a little while and then come back next year.
Same. I can't wait for the holidays to come. Fingers crossed, no lockdowns in the UK. Boris, just hold off a few more days. So Snazzy.
It's going to be great.
This is going to be similar to last time, and I'll also describe it to chat as well. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I've polled the community as well. I've got questions from YouTube, Discord, Twitter, DMs, everything. I'm going to be mixing in community questions with questions I've wrote, and I'll also be pulling questions from chat occasionally just to blend in there as well. Chat, if you do a question that's already been answered, I'll probably just ignore it unless it's something quick, and I'll maybe explain it as well, so we just don't get the repeating content all the time. This will also be up on YouTube later on, so if you can't stick around for the entirety of watching this, I will upload this content to YouTube later on. Exclamation mark YouTube in chat, you can find my YouTube channel, all that stuff. Also, we're doing a giveaway. Very generously, Snazzy sent me a couple of codes, and we're doing a giveaway for Post Scriptum, so exclamation mark giveaway in chat will give you a link to the giveaway where you can have a chance to win 2 keys for Post Scriptum. Give them to a friend, family. If you already own the game, it doesn't matter, do whatever you want with them, get more people in the game. And that's pretty much it from me. Let's get on to the interview, shall we, Snazzy? I'll have one more drink.
Yeah.
I do.
I bet you have a lot of things to ask.
Oh, we do. So let's start.
Let's try not to leak too much stuff too soon.
I'd never leak anything. I don't know what you're on about. I don't know what you're on about.
No.
So let's start with the first section, the Armour Overhaul.
Oh boy.
It recently dropped, massive update, widely positive received, I would say, from the community. I've been enjoying it massively. It's completely shook up the meta of the game and how players tackle situations. How do you guys feel at Periscope now that it's out?
So I think it's fair to say that there's a sense of relief in the team right now, because it's been what feels like an endless journey. 10 months of active development. The entire team is pretty exhausted at this point, and I think, like I said at the beginning of the interview, I think most of them are just looking forward to the holiday and recharging, and then to come back next year fully recharged. The players are still sort of adjusting to these new mechanics and then the new metas that came about with the Armour Overhaul.
100%.
So I think it's pretty important for us right now to give the game until next year to see how everything is being played and how players are getting along with the update. Yeah. Just to ensure we haven't made some bad decisions somewhere.
Fair enough. As you said, I can imagine it was a massive challenge for the whole team at Periscope. What were some of the biggest hurdles that you had to overcome with this Armour Overhaul?
I mean, the entire thing was a massive challenge on its own, I think it's fair to say. But specifically to the Armour Overhaul, I think the part that took the most time and effort was just the conversion and tweaking of each individual tank, getting each and every one of them over from the old to the new. Given each tank is different and sort of unique, they all need their own personal touch. And the tanks are still not entirely complete yet. We're still working on converting the last remaining vehicles over, as well as tweaking the ones we've already released. But as far as the most challenging task, that would probably be the whole task of redoing basically everything we've been working on for 10 months. The entire old vehicle system, we had to completely scrap it and start from scratch. So that's where we spent a significant portion of time just coding the vehicle movement, the seats and the shells and all the penetration stuff that's required for the new overhaul. So a lot of content actually got cut from the original Armour Overhaul that we planned back in February. And that's just due to time constraints. That's what happens in development.
You just mentioned that obviously some tanks aren't currently in the Armour Overhaul yet. Are there any dates of when we can expect the rest of the tanks being added into the game once again?
The plan right now is to release small batches of vehicles in about 4 or 5 different game updates.
Okay.
This sort of ensures that we can give each vehicle the attention they need before release, and that QA and testing can be done much more thoroughly going forward. The next update, technically going to be update 1, is going to contain the Panzer 2, the Panzer 3G, and the Stuka 3G. So primarily a German one. The next update after that will then focus on probably the British or the Americans, and then you'll have another one with either the British or the American, depending on which one we do for update 2. And then you have a third and fourth and fifth until all vehicles are back in the game.
Okay. First question from the community, kind of similar to that, is when will the Armour training range be released? That is from DKP for Life, who was on Discord.
It's hard to say, just out of the fact that the local range or offline mode is not the same as live server. Stuff behaves differently. Post Scriptum was never built with the intention in mind to play it alone or in an environment that's not replicated or multiplayer. So when you play offline range, that's why you often see some funny glitches and some funny bugs in shooting range that you don't see anywhere else, simply because the game was coded entirely to work in multiplayer, and it was never thought of to have the game functioning in single player. So it's hard to say exactly when we'll bring all the vehicles into the local mode. It probably won't happen until we've brought over all the vehicles, given that if we add a vehicle and then we update the range to work and then we add another vehicle and then it breaks the range again, it's sort of counterintuitive for us to go back and forth like that.
Okay, fair enough.
At some point it'll come. It's just not sure when yet.
Stepping away from the Armour Overhaul, I'm going to look at chat quickly, and I see Ghostwain's just popped in chat, and he's got a very interesting question, and it's about hoodies. What's going on with the hoodies?
What about them? I mean, there's nothing going on with the hoodies.
Is there any spares laying around, or is
Nah, unfortunately not. We might make another batch next year. Who knows? That's not a decision I get to make. That's a decision Romain gets to make, since he's the one who orders and gets all the hoodies done. It's fairly expensive to get, especially the hoodies that we have now. They're fairly expensive to make, so there's no real good way of making some hoodies at the quality that we'd like them to be, at the price that we'd like them to be. So hoodies, we're not saying no, we're not saying yes. So
okay, fair enough. Going back to the armor questions then for the time being, the driving mechanics have been a recent update, a massive change for tanks in this update. A lot of people are wondering, myself included, are there any plans to bring those driving mechanics to the rest of the vehicles in the game, such as the transport, the MSPs, command car, all those kind of vehicles?
Initially there were. Initially we called the update the vehicle overhaul, not the armor overhaul, and some people might remember it was called the vehicle overhaul until we changed it. But due to time constraints, it just wasn't feasible for us to go through all the old vehicles as well. And we're not entirely sure right now whether we're actually going to return to this and give them the same overhaul that we did to the armor. Mainly because they don't really need it. I think that's the big one. That there's no real need for the manual gearing. It's cool and all, but there's no real need to have it. There's no real need for to have the same penetration logic that the armor system uses. So as of right now, we're not going to commit the time into converting the old vehicles to the new system. It's just not worth the time right now or the effort. It takes an exorbitant amount of time. You could see with the overhaul itself, right? We're 10 months in, and we don't even have half of the vehicles in yet. So having to do all the soft skin vehicles is going to just add even more time on that, and we'd probably be ending up spending the rest of 2022 making those vehicles.
Okay, fair enough. It wasn't just tanks that got a touch up though in the Armour Overhaul. Offensive got some big changes with the removal of hard spawns for the defenders and including the allowance of 3 FOBs now. Originally it was 4, and to be built by both teams. Are you guys happy with the changes? Are you tracking the stats or are you gaining feedback from the players? How are you deciding these changes when it comes to like spawns and FOBs, things like that?
Yeah, so the armored system was one of many places where PS falls a bit short, and always had. And we wanted to ensure the update we wanted to make sure the armored update brought on enough changes to make the whole game feel fresh and not just a small part of it. That's why we spent a lot of time looking at the feedback and made meta changes based on what the community had to say over the past 10 months, as well as post release, the small changes we've made since then. And we spent a lot of time looking at the feedback, then investigating what could we change, where are changes necessary, that sort of stuff.
Fair.
And obviously, we're always tracking bug reports. We're tracking the feedback, suggestions, and everything that happens when the community plays. When the community wants to let us know that there's something they don't like, they're very vocal about it, which means that more often than not, we'll see it eventually, and we'll have to address it, and we'll always be able to get to know what the community wants and what they want us to look at. And that's what we've been spending the last few weeks on, and basically touching up those changes we originally made to the hard spawn. Most recently, the last update, we did the whole FOB changes that's supposed to make it a little bit easier on the defenders.
Yeah. So is there potential that the FOBs might change again in the future? Are you still tracking it, or are you happy with how they are currently?
For vehicles?
For FOBs, so how the spawns work.
It's hard to say because the update released 2 days ago, and based on what we see when we come back from the holiday next year, we'll be able to get a better understanding of any additional changes that we need to make. We usually use our QA, our close QA team or community QA team as sort of the guiding hands to give us an idea of what needs to change where, since they are encompassing the majority of the player base, from all different parts of the game: logistics, armor, and infantry commander, with thousands of hours. So they're arguably the best people to ask for ideas and suggestions.
I mean, I have some good suggestions as well. I'm just saying. I mean,
of course, and everyone is welcome to voice their opinion. That's the whole point of having, the ability to give your feedback and your suggestions to us. Is the whole idea is to make sure that everyone can be heard, regardless of who you are.
Yeah.
And we take what people say, and we go, what can we do with this, and how can we make this work? If they give us an idea that we're not entirely sure on, how can we make a compromise that suits their needs, as well as fixes what they want us to fix?
Yeah.
It's a lot of a balancing act, and it takes time. Meta changes is always one of those key areas where you got to be very careful and very cautious when you make them, because make too many changes and you very quickly lose any sense of direction as to where you're supposed to be heading, and you could very quickly make mistakes and make bad decisions.
Fair enough. Moving away from that then, are there any future features that we might see coming to not only tanks but maybe all vehicles in the game, such as the ability to ride on the tanks, infantry equipped weapons, mounted MGs on like the tanks, towing possibility, might that be coming back in the future?
Yeah, so a lot of features were cut, like I said, with the Armour Overhaul, like the ability to ride tanks, shoot turret mounted machine guns, or using your weapons from your hatches, that sort of thing. And we might come back to those at a later date, but for now, we're not super keen on really doing more stuff for armored. I feel like we've had our fill for at least a while with tanks. As far as towing goes, it's more than likely that it's going to come back. It's just a matter, because it is a core mechanic, right? Our towed vehicles and our pack guns kind of rely on the system to work, and without it, it's not really. They're just static guns, which that's not what they were. Anti-tank guns were designed to be moved around and put in different positions, and just having to leave them on the battlefield, it's not the design we want. So it's very likely that will come back, and do towing. It's just a matter of towing requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of coding time and a lot of internal resources to do. And we want to make sure that when we do fix it, we fix it for good. That it's not like a half-baked feature like it was when we originally designed it. We'd like to do stuff like towed Flak 36 and Flak 38, like the big 88 and the 20mm. We want to be able to tow them as well.
Yeah.
But those are a lot more tricky than the pack guns because they're not self-contained vehicles. They're more emplacements than they are anything else.
Yeah, you have to like unpack them and build them up and everything. And
Yeah.
Okay, I've got 3 questions that are pre-wrote from the community, and after those, I'll look at chat. The first question that I've got from the community comes from Orange Juice Addiction on Reddit. He asks, please ask about the possibility of tank commanders getting machine guns on the turrets, some 50 cal boom boom, as tank commanders would be pretty enjoyable, let's say. So something I similarly ask, and it's about mounted guns on tanks. So
yeah, that falls very much under that category of mounted machine guns and firing from hatches. It's a feature we'd like, but it's a feature that's going to take a lot of development time. And at the current moment in time, we're not particularly keen on going back and doing more armored stuff. It's not a no, but it's a case of we have other things we want to look at, not just tanks. It's the Post Scriptum isn't a tank game specifically.
Yeah.
But it's a very much a combined arm game, so we can't just go, we're only going to look at tanks, or we're only going to look at this, or we're only going to look at that. We have to sort of look at the entire spectrum of playing Post Scriptum. Armored, as it is now, is the best it's ever been. Now we got to look at, are there other places where PS kind of falls short, like is logistics falling short, or is the infantry falling short, and what can we do to improve it? That's sort of the stepping stone of what's to come.
Fair enough. Similar question was from Jackson Kingdom on Discord. He asked about machine guns on tanks, but so we've already answered that. And then I've got another question from Footjam on Reddit and Soundboy from YouTube, and they asked, when is towing coming back? Is there any rough estimates on when you guys might look at towing again? Or I know we just previously mentioned it.
Probably sometime next year. I'm expecting towing to be included as part of the quality of life update on the roadmap. That's at least the target, is that the quality of life is a culmination of a lot of things. It's not like one specific area. It's more like, what can we do to improve the entire game as a whole? And towing is arguably one of them. So I'd imagine that towing is something we'd see probably sometime in 2022. We'd be lucky to see it come back.
Okay.
Whether it's before or after the engine upgrade, that's hard to say.
Okay, fair enough. That was all my questions for the armor section. So I'll quickly look at chat now. Chat, I've been reading you and keeping an eye on you. Don't worry. I'm going to handpick questions from chat now. So if you've got any questions to ask, throw them at me now before we move on to the next section. So a couple of people are asking about advertising. Do you want to talk about that at all? Like, is there any plans for like marketing the game, Steam sales and all that stuff?
I mean, we already are. We have been for the last 2 years at this point. So in the past, OWI, Off-Roll Industries, they were sort of the people that were responsible for a lot of our marketing. But over the course of 2020 to 2021, we've sort of slowly integrated that back over to ourselves. So we already run marketing campaigns. We work with a new external partner that handles all of our marketing for us, and we basically tell them when we want to run a campaign, what we want to run, and how we want to run it, and they make sure it happens and make sure we reach the right people with the right message. So advertising is something that's already happening. I think it's just a question of, do you see it as the end user? And the most often case is probably no, because a lot of the places where people typically see advertisements like YouTube, we don't typically advertise just because it doesn't sell well. The conversion rate is far too small for us to even bother outside of doing any form of publicity, like we did with the Chapter C trailer, which was marketed on YouTube, and it did well, but it didn't do well enough.
Fair enough. Tim asks, are there going to be any changes to the commander role? I've had some good suggestions for the commander role, I feel, but is there any possible changes coming to the commander role?
I think any changes to the current templates of units, commander, logistics, armored, are all going to depend on 100 players. Because as it stands now, if you were to put everyone in a section, you would fill up all the sections equally.
Yeah.
If you put the logistics sections together, the armor section together, and then 3 infantry sections and the commander, that makes up perfectly 40 players. So if we were to increase the commander, you'd sacrifice an infantryman or an armored unit or an armored player somewhere. So there's nowhere where we can add it, but it would sacrifice a player somewhere else. So in order to avoid that, we'd have to increase the player count, which we're working on, but it's quite evident from our 100 player testing that it's not there yet. We're still out there from being able to run it just yet, but we're getting closer.
Fair enough. Ghost Kern Mag asks about the 50 cow Jeep that you guys have just recently shown off in the last couple of weeks, and he says, how is that going to be balanced in terms of main base camping and vehicles? I imagine like easy.
It'll be considered a specialized vehicle, the same way the motorcycle is a specialized vehicle, or the truck is the 20 millimeter or the reverse anti-tank gun on the French gun, the Lafley. They're all specialized vehicles, and the 50 cal Jeep will be the same.
Fair enough. General James Longstreet asks, is there going to be a comprehensive list on the new rules highlighted in the near future? He's probably talking about Supremacy game mode. I'm not quite sure, but I imagine, are you guys going to like release a guide or instructions on how to play game modes, maybe, and what the game mechanics are?
We have a lot of the core gameplay loops. A lot of them are outlined, and I agree they could be outlined better. There's not a really good way of doing it. The best thing the community can do to help us and help each other is use our wiki, update the wiki, make an entry or update an entry, and help us make the wiki because remember, the wiki isn't owned by us, it's not driven by us, it's community driven. We have no control over the wiki ourselves, so we don't handle the wiki. Since we haven't created it, it's not ours. It very much relies on the community to help feed it information. So the best thing our community can do is to help fill the wiki with information, that's available. And with the SDK available, there's no information that you cannot get if you really want to, given the SDK is out now.
Fair enough. I see a bunch of questions that are going to be relating to the next section, so I'm going to use some of the questions I see in chat and put them in with the next section, because my questions might answer a few of them for you. My next section is going to be talking about the roadmap. You guys recently, I think last month or a couple of weeks ago, released the new roadmap laid out for 2020. So
yeah, we laid out the new roadmap for 2021 and 2022.
So with the new roadmap that you've released to us, one of the things a lot of people are asking is the third-party content integration. Can you guys go into detail of what that actually means?
We can't really speak too much on what this entails just yet, but the idea is to find a compromise for especially our mod developers like map makers to bring their content to the game in a way that makes sense. And it means that if there are any projects out there like map makers or whoever who'd like to work with us and become a third party eventually, or work with us to do third party integration, they can reach out to us, either me, Romain, or even our email on the website.
So anyone who's looking to like help make some new content, or maybe
or have a map they'd like to include within the game as it's not official content, it's still community content, but it's meant as a compromise between the workshop and full integration.
So reach out to you guys, and you guys will look at getting into the game. Okay, awesome,
then we'll make the decision on what passes and what doesn't pass and stuff like that. Because we have some requirements, like any third-party content that would have to come would be very vanilla, meaning they'd have to fit the same rule sets that we play by.
I imagine there's a lot of legal jargon and stuff that you have to go through.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to go over, and that's something we'll be keen on talking about next year.
Okay.
It's a bit too soon. It's just more of a premature announcement that it's going to be happening.
Mm.
It's just a question of now to figure out how we're going to make this happen and exactly what it entails for modders.
Sticking with that then, Godsan, I'm pronouncing that wrong, from Reddit asked about Mercury and its integration into the main game. When it comes to larger scale things, are we maybe going to see like unofficial expansions added? Or...
It's definitely possible, but there's a lot of hurdles to overcome, especially when you speak large scale mods like entire chapters. They come with their own entire set of challenges because they're not a single person making a map, they're an entire team of people making several different things. That complicates a lot of things. So the entire third party thing, it doesn't necessarily exclude any particular type of content. The only barrier of entry is really us. We make the call on what goes and what doesn't go.
Did you guys play the Mercury playtest? What do you think of it at Periscope?
I played it very briefly, and I like where it's going. I think there's a lot of potential in what they're doing. Although there's a lot of places where it can still improve, but it is coming along really nicely. And I'm curious to see what they're going to bring out. Come, the next factions and the next maps they're going to make.
Okay. Lays from Discord, sticking to similar types of questions, asked, what if someone made a new faction? Could that get added into the game? So maybe just like the Italians as a standalone and add that into like existing Chapter 1 maps and so forth?
I mean, yeah, but they'd have to make their own map.
Okay.
Remember, we don't take your content. It's still your content. You still have to update and maintain it and stuff like that. We just find a compromise to where we can bring it into the game in a better way that makes sense. And a lot of this is still very much planning, where we haven't actually committed to doing this just yet. That's why if there are some who'd like to get involved, they can reach out and we'll have a chat and see what we can do. There's very much a process that needs to be designed to make this work for any type of content, whether it be large mods, small mods, or anything in between.
So just wrapping up with the mod stuff and integration, if anyone wants to add content in the game, they have to come talk to you guys, and you guys will sit down with them and talk to them and see what can be done. Basically, that's the
if they like to if they're interested in the idea of bringing their content to the game, they need to reach out to us and we'd have a talk about what we can offer and what we can do and how we can do and all that.
So my next question has basically been already done. I was going to ask when we might get a date for Maginot releasing, but obviously came out yesterday. So I'll modify it a little bit. So the tunnel networks for the Maginot layer, when might we see those come into the game?
Yeah, so the tunnels are the only parts that are really missing from the map, and the only reason why they're missing is they need some more performance enhancements. There's more performance and optimization that needs to be run. The tunnels are huge, like they're massive. If you put it all in like a single line, it's like 2 or 3 square kilometers.
It's like a new map, is how I describe it.
It's basically an entire map underground, and because it's full to the brim with map objects and assets, it's basically one big interior. There's a lot of optimization that needs to be done on all the assets inside, and we can't leave it too empty because it's not fun if it's just like a long hallway.
Yeah,
there needs to be enough cover for everyone to hide behind and stuff like that. It's so big, in fact, that it's the only map in the game, Maginot, that has an entire second map just for the tunnels.
Yeah,
overlaid on top of the actual mini map. That's how big it is.
Someone asked me last night when I was streaming, I can't remember who it was, but they asked the question: when the new underground tunnel parts come out of the map, are there any plans to have capture objectives down in the tunnels, or are they going to remain all on the surface?
Yes, the plan right now is that there's going to be some objectives that are going to be underground, and there's going to be some that are going to be above ground. We don't want the entire fight to always be underground. We want the tunnel to function very much as a way to get around the map that's not above ground. The highlight of the tunnel is arguably the big door that's in the slap bang middle of the tunnel system, which players can close, and when it's closed, nobody can go through the door. They can blow the door up, but the door is big bulletproof door that basically blocks off like an entire section of the map from the other side.
Okay. Someone asked in chat, I can't remember who it was, but I've also got this question written down, and it's on the roadmap. You mentioned an engine upgrade coming to the game. Can you describe what that is going to mean to the players, to the modders? Can you go into what an engine upgrade is going to mean?
Well, an engine upgrade means most of all improved technology and tools for us to develop. In terms of actual like engine versions, we're shooting for engine version 4.27, which is like 6 versions above what we have now. It's the latest version of Unreal Engine 4, and that's currently available, and comes with a lot of new tech and a lot of improvements to the engine that we can make use of. And the idea being, there's a lot of performance here to harness, just out of the box, given that the engine features, brand new technology, like the first integration of Niagara and as well as DLSS or FSR if you're AMD, which is basically a super sampling for anti-aliasing, letting you get a high fidelity looking game, but much better performance than you otherwise have.
So
which is awesome.
I had a question from Discord, RM on Discord, and I think you might have answered some of the questions that he had there. He says, will you guys continue to optimize the game? I mean, obviously, yes. But he also added, when the engine update comes, will there be an implementation of AMD FSR? I have no idea what that means, but that's his question.
AMD FSR is basically what NVIDIA's DLSS is. It's basically a way to render the game at a much higher resolution and at a much better performance. The technology is not something I fully understand myself, but in average Joe terms, it's free performance. It's basically just a way to get massive amount of performance at half the cost, meaning people who can make leverage of AMD's FSR or DLSS to get really, really good performance at really, really high settings at half the cost.
Okay, fair enough. That sounds like techie nerd stuff. I honestly
it is. It's very much tech nerd stuff. I can't possibly imagine. I can't possibly sit here and claim I know what I'm talking about. I only know what I've been.
Okay. Sitting right in the middle of the roadmap, we obviously had 3 new maps: Foy, Hague, and Ardennes. The first 2 shown as being part of the upcoming Watch of the Rhine for Chapter 4, but Ardennes is shown as separate. Will Ardennes be purely an armored map, or will we also see an infantry version? And if not, does that mean you guys have got a 3rd map that you haven't announced yet for Chapter 4?
Yeah, so the Ardennes map is made for Armored, the same way the Proving Grounds is. It's a symmetrical map with tanking in mind. So it's a map made specifically for tanks and smaller engagements.
Okay.
As far as Chapter 4 goes, the 2 planned maps are as of now are Foy and Haguenau.
That's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, and a 3rd map is being considered, but we haven't made a decision on whether we were actually committing to making a 3rd map. So as of now, it's Foy and Haguenau.
Okay, fair enough. Is there anything missing from the roadmap that you guys are working on that you haven't shown us yet? And I've got a few questions to go on from that. Eton8 from Reddit is asking, are there going to be cosmetics, and how is the 50-50 possibility coming along?
Let me take the customization first. Customization depends on what they think. We're keen on the idea, but we're not keen on making the game not Postscriptum. But Postscriptum has an identity, and we want to make sure that Postscriptum remains true to what it was 3 years ago. And it's crazy to think about that I'm saying 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago at this point. But we want to make sure that Postscriptum stays relevant to what it was when it released 3 years ago.
Okay.
The reality of the situation is that Postscriptum will not keep generating money, and Postscriptum is not going to keep making us money indefinitely. We can't keep making content Postscriptum without some form of a monetization scheme in some way or capacity. And whether we're going to commit to that, it's very much a question that's still up in the air. because it's very splitting. It's a very split opinion, both internally but also by our community. The community doesn't want cosmetics or customizations, and we're not really for it. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, we don't really know what else we do to, because we're never gonna sell expansions or DLC, because technically it's very very difficult to make happen.
Yeah.
It's just not something we're very much a fan of. And what our plans are in terms of future cosmetics or customization is very much up in the air. We're not ruling out the idea, but we're also saying we want to make sure that if we do it, it's going to be done in such a way that it doesn't ruin anything within the game. It doesn't ruin any aspects of the game in any shape, way, or form.
I imagine
Like other games have.
it's not going to be like Fortnite, where all of a sudden Dwayne the Jock Ronson is like on top of a tiger tank rocking down the street, you know, in like doing the.
No, I
the
can imagine the customization post scriptum will come in the form of you buy, say, a small camo pack for your sniper rifle, and it might have like some wraps on it in different types of colors, like winter or desert or forest or whatever, and you can equip that on your rifle depending on where you're fighting or what you're fighting, something along those lines.
So
but we're again, it's very much one of those things that we haven't really committed to, and I'm not sure when or if we are going to. It's also very possible that we won't commit to it, and Postscriptum will just have to stop development at some point in the future. That's also a likely outcome. It's to be determined. So.
Fair enough. The other part of his question was the 50-50. So you run some tests with it. What is the news around 50-50?
Yeah, so performance is better. Don't get me wrong. Performance is better than it was a year ago, but it's not there yet. Which is also what partially spurred on the idea of doing an engine upgrade, because we realized that without an engine upgrade, it's not likely that we're going to be able to push more performance out of the game. The game is already stretching the limits of what we can do with Unreal Engine as it is now. We're already pushing the limits, and I'm not sure where we can. But there's not really a lot of places where we can still gather optimization in the current version of the engine. And the only way forward is really to upgrade, and that's what we're hoping we're going to be able to see.
So it sounds more and more likely like the engine upgrade is going to be an upcoming priority, maybe from Periscope.
The engine upgrade is currently it's going to be the priority over the winter period. So it's likely that we're going to see the engine upgrade, at least on the developer side. So on our development side, it's probably going to be here about the time when we get back from holiday, or right after we get back from holiday. We're probably going to see us see ourselves in the next version of the engine.
Okay, my last pre-wrote question from the community comes from Rusty Newbat from Reddit, and it's a long one, and the rum is starting to kick in, so bear with me. He asks, please ask what plans they have for improving infantry gameplay, i.e. dragging wounded soldiers, better positioning, cover for static MGs and bipod weapons, cover/ducking mechanics, more melee options. Infantry gameplay can feel a bit clunky at times, as his words, especially in close quarters. It doesn't have to be a single button melee kill like every other FPS, but could it be improved in some way? So a lot to unpack.
Of course it can, and a lot of it comes down to time and quality of life. Whenever we do an update, whenever we do anything where we add new content or change content, we have to look at the game from a perspective of how much time will this take to make, and what will it bring us back in return. It's fair to say we don't have an unlimited amount of money. We don't have an unlimited amount of time, so we got to spend the money and the time and the resources we have very carefully, and choose very carefully where we're going to invest. There are some things that he mentioned there in that list, and there's a lot of things he mentioned on that list that's quality of life that we'd like to do, but we might not be able to do now, or we have to do later, or whatever it might be. There's a lot of things we'd like to do, and a lot of the common community things that they ask for, like dragging, is something we'd like to do. It's just a matter of making it happen. The coding side of it is a whole challenge on its own.
Yeah, but I imagine a lot of it comes down to resources you guys have, and you're a small studio, so like money and resource management. Callum interrupting the interview. Thank you, Callum.
Whoa. What do you mean?
So yeah, you got to prioritize your budget, right?
Yeah, absolutely. With a game like Postscriptum, which it does sell more than it pays. Like we sell more than we cost, which is what we want. That's the ideal scenario, is your game will pay itself off, and that's what we want to do.
Mm.
The moment it starts not doing that is where you should start worrying about the product that you have. And Postscriptum very much still pays itself off.
Yeah.
Meaning, for as long as it keeps doing that, we can keep working on it. And for how long that's going to be, there's no telling. It could be years, it could be decades.
Fair enough.
We'll have to see where we sit in next year. Each year is always interesting to see where is Postscriptum in the horizon. Where do we sit for content?
So that covers all my questions for the second section, what I was talking about the roadmap and what you guys have put on the roadmap. I'll look at Twitch chat again. Twitch chat, I'm looking at you. I'm keeping an eye on you, making sure you're all staying like nice and sane and you're not killing each other. Throw me some questions, Twitch chat. Hoodies. I mean, it keeps coming up. When are we getting hoodies? It just keeps coming up. Come on.
I know. Of course it does. It's hoodies.
I mean,
I'm wearing mine right now.
I know, and it's kind of an insult to everyone watching right now that you're sat there in a hoodie and you know it's what do we
they
get?
could they could learn game development and come join us and they get a hoodie.
Well, there you go, chat. Go work in game development. Easy, problem solved.
Easy, easy.
What about me? I mean, I've already got a job, so.
You're a partner. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we will have hoodies for all of our partners.
I mean, I don't care about the rest of
that is not. I'm not saying that off the table at all. There's a possibility that all of our partners will be getting.
Look, I'm gonna be. I don't care about the rest of the partners. I care about me. When am I getting?
I know.
You know, like I don't care. I don't care about Mr. Pro or Dan.
Well, you're gonna have to come and steal it if you want it.
I mean, you're only in France. That's what 20 miles away.
I'm not in France.
Well, you know what I mean. All right, let's have a look at chat. Acid asked about an Eastern Front, so I imagine he's talking about what comes after Chapter 4.
Don't know yet what comes after Chapter 4, actually. We're still making Chapter 4, so it's hard to exactly point where we're going to go. I think it's pretty safe to say we're probably going to do Chapter 5. I don't think that's off the table at all. I think that's very much a possibility. It really depends on how 2022 looks and how we're sitting at the end of 2022. But it's very much a possibility that we're going to do Chapter 5. What Chapter 5 will be, I have no idea.
Okay. Callum asks, what are your thoughts on the modding community now that the SDK has come out?
I think they're brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. They make some awesome stuff. I envy some of the stuff that they've made. They made a lot of stuff that I'd like to see in the game. They've made a lot of stuff that I'd like to see come to the game that we don't have the time or possibility to currently do. So I think the modding community is a great asset to PS, especially for the longevity. They also help us look at issues and help us find things that we might have missed in our own development team that our community might not notice when they're playing the game, but our modders might know because they're looking directly at assets or looking directly at things. Yeah. So the relationship between us and our modders is a really strong one, and it's one I'm really, really excited about. Doing our own SDK is something we'd wanted to do for a long time, and we're pretty excited that we have the ability to now not do that, and they can go make their own content as they please.
Okay. Rin asks, any news on battlemetric additions for server admins? Again, I don't know what that means, but anything on that?
What? I need that one again.
Any news on battlemetric additions for server admins?
That's a big one. That's also part of quality of life. It's on the list of things we want to do. There's a whole. We had a meeting with our server hosters a little while ago. I think it was early this year or part of last year, part of the end part of last year, where we collected together a bunch of feedback from our hosters, what they'd like to see for the server admin side. And it's definitely something we'd like to commit time to and commit more time to. But there's so many places we need to work and so many things we need to look at that we only have so many people. We can't look at everything at once. But into 2022, it's something I know we're going to be looking at, partially because we need to. For some of the other things that we want to do in quality of life, they inherently require us to look at how we deal with server administration.
Okay. Dookie asks, M16 as a flat truck counterpart, ? I assume he means this thing. I just Googled it quickly. I assume he means one of these, which is like a quad.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not planned. We'd like to, but it's definitely not planned. Not at the current moment. It's
Okay.
another one of those things that we'd like to do. It's under the list of vehicles. We have an insane list of vehicles that we'd love to do, but we can't do all of them.
Mm.
We have to pick very carefully which ones we do, which one we don't. And this one is unfortunately one of the things that we'd like to do, but
Yeah.
we haven't really committed to doing. There's other nations that could use new vehicles more so, or weapons more so. The British or the French, for example, could use more vehicles.
Yeah, okay. DSL asks, are there any plans to revisit previous chapters, add in potential more maps? For example, he lists Dunkirk for chapter 2, I think.
We recently brought back the topic of going back and doing more stuff for existing chapters, and we're not putting it off the table. But obviously, we have chapter 4 we're working on now, and then we're going to have chapter 5, and it's a question of when we'll have time to go back and do more maps for old chapters. It's not likely we're going to go back to chapter 1 though and make more stuff. It's more likely that we're going to go back to chapter 2 or chapter 3 and make 1 or 2 maps here and there.
Fair enough. Commandant asks, when the engine upgrade comes out, will there be separate speeds for on-road and off-road?
It was also one of those things that we planned initially, but we never actually got around to doing. It's still on the wish list for the vehicle system, but we haven't actually committed to doing it yet. So it's hard to say exactly when or if we're gonna add this. There is terrain. We call it slippage, meaning that different terrain have different amount of slip. Meaning a vehicle might not be able to go up one slope, but it can go up another slope. For example, the difference between driving up a mud slope compared to driving up a dirt slope is going to be different.
Fair enough. The last question I'm going to take for now, and we'll come back to Twitch chat later. Backloff asks, tank interiors? Question mark.
No.
You got it. That quick and easy question.
It's just far too much work.
Work time. I think we asked this last time, and it came down to like time and money, right?
It's always time and money. Everything you ever make, anything you'll ever make in any video game is always about time and money. It's always time.
Okay.
Because everything is time and money.
We'll move on to the next section I had then. Don't worry, Twitch chat. I'm still watching. We'll come back to you. Calm down. We'll be there. Chapter 4, Watch of the Rhine, aka Battle of the Bulge, if I remember right. History nerds, am I right with that? Watch of the Rhine, Battle of the Bulge. Snazzy, am I correct?
Watch of the Rhine isn't focused on just Battle of the Bulge. Battle of the Bulge was one of many events of the time. Watch of the Rhine is focused on a period. It's focused on the period between December 1944 and February 1945. We don't really have a release date for chapter 2 or chapter 4 yet.
Okay.
But going into 2022, you're going to start seeing more dev blogs and posts about chapter 4 and what you can expect from chapter 4.
You basically answered my first question then. It was like, what is Battle of the Bulge? And are there any estimates of when it might hit public play testing so the community can start getting their hands on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not... It's a bit too early. The maps are in development. They're actually heading towards the phase where they can start playtesting. We're making all the assets that we need. Obviously, when you make an entire new season like winter, you need a lot of new assets and a lot of new stuff. Like winter uniforms and winter assets. I think I might be okay to share a little from
Gimme.
Chapter 4.
What is it?
I am going to go on a whim and say we can probably get away with this. So let me go find it for you. So you have something to show off. I guess we can show off a small picture of Haguenau. Haguenau?
I don't know how to pronounce it. I just say Hague. I don't know.
Haguenau.
Everyone knows at this point I can't read. I can't pronounce names. I don't care.
The Hague is something very, very different.
Isn't that like a trial place or something for police? I don't know.
It's a place in the Netherlands.
Okay. Great country. I love the Netherlands.
Which one of these would be suitable for us? You can pick the Let's see, No Man's Land or this one. We'll go with this one. This one is nice. I like this.
Okay.
So we'll post it. We'll post it. I like this one.
Okay.
And send it. Have a look at this one.
Ooh, let me just save it and bring it up full screen so chat can see it. Give me 1 second, chat.
If not, you might not hear from me again.
What are they gonna do? Get rid of you? Come on, man! You ain't gonna get rid of you.
Don't tempt them.
I mean, I work in digital marketing. I'm just saying, I'll happily take over the community management role. I feel like I can handle that quite easily.
That's your master plan, isn't it?
Nah. So I'm just gonna hide you for a quick second, Snazzy, because you're in the way blocking the screen. So we've got a new. Oh, your face is still there. Get out of the way, Snazzy.
No,
Where are you?
I don't like my face.
There you go. So we've got a new. In fact, I'll go. I can't go full screen actually, but let me just make it a bit bigger, chat, so you can see it. So this is a picture he's showing us of the new upcoming Chapter 4 map. And what is this? Can you just describe this picture a little bit?
So this is Haguenau. This is a part of the Haguenau Mile. It's an area we call No Man's Land because it's a small empty area between the Allied lines and the German lines, and there's basically a big field of fucking nothing between the Allies. So we call it No Man's Land because there's no trees, there's no cover, there's nothing. It's basically just a big field.
So obviously it's a winter map. Are we going to see any like how is this going to work like footprint wise? Are we going to see snow, dynamic weather? What's going on here? Like
dynamic weather, absolutely not. But as far as stuff like footprints and stuff, we'd really like to, but it's very expensive to do. Especially in a multiplayer environment. We'd love to be able to like track people's footprints, and then you can follow people's footprints, and you can see where like an entire squad when you can follow them using their footprints. It'd be really, really funny.
It would, and that is just what part of the map is that again? It's part of how do you pronounce it? Haguenau.
Haguenau. Haguenau.
Okay, I'll leave that on the screen for time being. So I briefly mentioned the features coming to the map. Aside from, the maps themselves, are we going to see new vehicles, guns, uniforms? Can you like tell us what else are we getting with Chapter 4?
So aside from the obvious being that it's winter and you're going to get the winter uniforms, there aren't a whole lot of like new vehicles here. There's a lot of vehicles that's been retextured to be more winter-like. The Chaffee will finally see its introduction to the game with its winter camo, as well as the Jagdtiger that we announced earlier. And you actually have a picture of that.
I do. Let me find it without like leaking all my desktop everywhere. Give me a second, chat. We've got another picture to show you.
Which is basically just that the Jagdtiger we showed up, but with its winter camo.
There we go. The Jagdtiger with its winter camo. I'll make it bigger again so you guys can see it. There it is.
Beautiful. Looks so beautiful.
It does. Can you just describe this tank a little bit for like people like me? I'm not in depth with my tank. Can you like just give us a few details?
So the Jagdtiger is basically the Germans' go big or go home answer to the Allies. They basically, the Tiger has, the long 88mm gun, which was, at the time the most powerful gun. Well, this thing has a gun that's even bigger than that.
Oh.
It's close to being double the size. It's 128 millimeters, so 12.8 centimeters. It's basically a naval gun at this point. They slapped onto a tank and decided, that's fine. Call it a day. Mounted on top of the King Tiger's chassis. It's got like ridiculous amount of armor. I think the front plate next to the mantlet is like 250 millimeters of armor, which is 25 centimeters of armor. It's ridiculous amount of armor.
So you're going to need some kind of big allied tank to at least have a chance to take this thing down.
I don't think there's anything the Allies have that can punch through the front of the King, or the Jagdtiger.
So
I don't think they physically have anything, even tank that can punch through it.
So you're looking to like detrack it at most, maybe take out its
engine.
Detrack it.
Maybe you can damage the transmission, and then it's a side shot if you really want to kill this. It's big, it's heavy, it's slow. It's got a long reload.
Ooh, okay. What kind of ammo is this thing rocking then? What kind of firepower is it shooting out?
Well, it obviously has a 128 millimeter gun, and as far as I know, it has not one loader but two loaders to load the gun because it's
Okay.
that big. It's got a fairly long. It'll have a fairly long reload time.
Hmm.
I think it's fair to say it's if you get hit by this, you're not going to be alive. You're not. You're. Not,
Yeah.
It's basically. It is the closest thing you'll get in Postscriptum to an artillery piece.
Fair enough.
Its caliber is larger than the early war field artillery, which is 105 millimeters at the start of the war.
So
So
basically,
this is even bigger.
anything in its way is not going to be getting up again. That's just
Yeah,
you're down.
No, you're not. You're this thing fires at you. You're not. If you are anywhere near explosion, you're gonna be gone.
Okay, so obviously it's got a winter camo right here for the chapter 4. Are we going to see it added to the other chapters as well?
I don't want to say yes. It doesn't. It didn't see service on any other maps other than the chapter 4 maps. It's
Okay.
It was such a late war vehicle that it didn't really see service. Not a lot of these were ever made.
Okay.
So it's quite a rare vehicle. It's very likely that you'll rarely see this vehicle. You might see this vehicle every once per 4 or 5 matches.
Okay, and is this tied with chapter 4, or might we see this, in playtesting before then on like a public playtest or something?
We'll probably see it in Armored. I'd imagine this thing will probably be somewhere in Armored.
Okay.
Even though it's probably not the most useful tank to use, it's easy to outflank and it's sort of easy to kill once it's been detracked. It's a vehicle that really needs allied support, and if it doesn't have any support, it's a dead tank.
Fair enough. I mean, that basically, I had a question from Gotts von Berlich from Discord. He's a member of the 91st PCD. He's big into his tanks, and he was asking when the Jag Panther might be coming, and I guess we've got the answer now for it. So.
Oh well, the Jag Panther is a different tank.
Oh, is it a different tank? Okay, look.
The Jagdtiger is built on the King Tiger's chassis. The Jag Panther is, as the name suggests, built on the Panther chassis. Different tank. Uses basically the same gun as the Tiger 2.
Okay.
The 88, the long 88.
Are we gonna see it?
Also a fairly late war vehicle. Not a lot of them produced either. But it's probably more versatile. We'd like to do it. Don't get me wrong. But again, as with everything, it takes time to make tanks.
Yeah. What was this tank called again? Just so like I can remember. It's the Jagdtiger. Okay, I get confused. Panzerjäger. It's the big tank. If you see
it's the chunky boy.
Basically, it at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because if you're playing Postscriptum and the infantry call out a tank, everything is a Tiger. It doesn't matter if it's a scout car, it doesn't matter if it's a Puma, it doesn't matter if it's a lodgy truck.
It's always a Tiger.
Yeah, it's always a Tiger. Everything is a Tiger. I'm gonna hide the tank now, just get it off screen a little bit so I can keep an eye on chat. Is there anything else that we haven't covered already that you can maybe tell us about Chapter 4? I think weapons-wise, what kind of weapons might we see? Is it similar to Chapter 3?
Yeah, I mean, most of the weapons are basically the same as they were in Chapter 3, and actually, Chapter 1 actually happens after D-Day, so Chapter 1 is only a couple of months. It's only a couple of months before Chapter 4 happens.
Okay.
So if you have to put all the chapters into a timeline, it would be Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 1, and then Chapter 4. So most of the equipment that you'll see in Chapter 4 is the same equipment that exists in Chapter 1.
Okay,
vehicles,
interesting.
equipment, soldiers. The difference comes down to uniforms, I think, where the Germans will have a lot better, have their winter uniforms and snow-covered uniforms.
Two questions I'm going to pull from what you just said there. So you mentioned the timeline of events. I know this is aimed at the American versus German scenarios, but might we see some like alternative history scenarios where there might be some British versus German layers in there as well?
We'd like to, but again, it's very much a case of what the community wants as well. We'd like to do more maps where it's alternative history because it makes it easier to make more layers and make more replayable gameplay.
Yeah.
So it's not unlikely that we'll see the Allied or see the Jagdtiger on different maps or see the Allies fighting in different layers. Supremacy is a good map because Maginot features both a 1940 and a 1944, even though they didn't really fight there much in 1944 at all.
Okay.
So it's not unlikely, but it is a case of we'd have to make very careful decisions as to how we want to make these alternative layers if we make them.
Can I run a little poll while we've got a lot of people in chat then, asking who's watching right now if they would like to see maybe a British versus German layer? Maybe if it's only one layer where it's British versus German for Chapter 4. Can we just run a little poll in Twitch chat for that?
The problem with that is often it requires, especially when you talk about different seasons, you don't really have the same uniform. You don't have any winter uniform for the British. So they'd be running around with what they would wear in summer or whatever. It would look quite odd.
I'm going to educate you here a little bit, Snazzy. As a British person, I can tell you when it comes to winter, we're out in shorts and shirts anyway. It literally doesn't matter. We don't go out in like big coats or anything. I don't think the snow really matters to us. And I think all British people will attest to that. I mean, it's rain 24/7. So, you know.
Well, yeah, but that's not really winter, is it?
I mean, I spent a little time in Sweden during a Christmas one time, and it was one of the coldest winters. And I kept getting shouted at because I was going outside with no coat on and like just, you know, in shirts and everything. And they kept shouting at me saying I'm gonna like, you know,
get my. That's a stupid idea.
The British are hardy, okay? We're a hardy bunch, okay? Moving away from that, then, I'll leave the poll just curious wise. Chapter 4 wise, then, is there any time estimates on when we might see this chapter?
Like I said, there's not really much of a time frame right now since we're coming out of what is essentially a 10-month period of Armour stuff.
Yeah,
and we're not done with it yet. We're still working on it into 2022. So it's not entirely set in stone when Chapter 4 will drop to the public, but it's fair to say it's going to be sometime in 2022. It's just a question of when.
Okay, and
we'll be able to give that a much better estimate once we get closer to an actual release date. Right now, it's still too far out.
When it comes to the development of Chapter 4, are you guys like focusing on one map first, or are you like doing three maps with Ardennes at the same time, or are you going to like do, okay, we're going to do this map in this month, then the next month we're going to focus on this map, and that's when that map comes out? So is it going to be like staggered?
No, we don't focus on individual maps like that. In that sense, we focus our level designers on working. Usually the way it works is that our level designer will, for example, the level designer did Maginot is currently working on FOI, and he has been working on FOI since start of 2021, if not earlier. And basically, whenever there's something for him to fix, he will fix Maginot, and then he'll send it off for QA testing. And then while QA is going through the map, he will be working on FOI, and then he'll get the feedback back about what needs to be fixed in Maginot. He'll go fix stuff in Maginot, and then FOI will be set dormant, and then it goes back and forth like that.
Yeah, okay.
Some of our level designers work constantly, like 24/7 on a Chapter 4 map, and others.
Fair enough. That was basically my last question about the Chapter 4 section. So I'm going to look at Twitch chat again. Again, Twitch chat, I've been keeping an eye on you. Do you have any Chapter 4 related questions, Twitch chat? Do you have any more questions coming in? I love how I literally have 80 viewers and I still get a bot that gets banned asking me if I want another viewer by. I think these bots went on Twitch are getting crazy. But yeah, Twitch chat, do you have any questions about Chapter 4? Any other questions as well? I'll try to fit them in. Ghost Kern asks, when are the Japanese being added to defend on D-Day? Well, I guess never.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, you can role play as a Japanese.
Yeah,
if you want, I guess. I mean, German Japanese volunteers, I guess.
Yeah, join one of our One Life events. They happen all the time. You can role play whatever you want, man. That's great. I'm just seeing if there's any specific questions for Chapter 4 coming in, but I'll also pick a couple of others. Commandant asks, will we get a logistics overhaul with more buildables and less incentive for commandos?
I think even if we were to add more buildables, I don't think that would necessarily lower the amount of quote-unquote commandos. I think playing Commando is a conscious decision you make, regardless of whether or not you can put stuff down or not. We could give you a list of several hundred deployables you can put down, and there's still going to be that one guy or that one squad who's going to go and camp at main base or going to camp roads or whatever. I don't think you can really. I don't think that's something you can just fix by just adding more stuff for the logistics. The problem is that your logistics, as it is now, are already overwhelmed with stuff to do.
Yes.
And it's not a question of giving them more to do. It's a question of giving them less to do. Because if you overwhelm the logistics, they're just more likely not to do logistics, and they're just going to go and fuck off and do their own thing, which is inevitably going to end up in some form of main base camping or something, because it works and it's super, super easy, and they have to do absolutely nothing except drive a truck back and forth across the map every so often. It doesn't really require much effort on their side.
I think a recent change that I've liked is now 18 mines. They don't straight up blow up a vehicle, do they? They just disable it, which is...
Yeah.
I found has been helping main base camping to be less frustrating and a lot more easy to avoid. And with
we had it just yesterday when we were playing on Maginot, and we had main base camping, and the fact that you can that tactic doesn't really work that well anymore is awesome. Yeah. Although the AT mines definitely still need some more work, but it's something we'll have to look at when we get into 2022, I think.
Okay. Atrisan asks why the Jagdtiger and not the Jagdpanzer or the Hetzer? Why did you choose the Jagdtiger, basically?
Because it's big. Because it's unique. It's not something you see in a lot of games. I cannot remember the amount of games where we have a Jagdtiger. There's very few games that have it. So you could turn that around and say, why didn't we do XYZ vehicle? Because we had to choose one, and we chose the Jagdtiger. There wasn't really a specific reason other than, it looked cool. We wanted the Jagdtiger, and we could just as easily made another tank, and people will still ask the question, why didn't you pick XYZ tank instead?
Okay. Shooting asks, are there going to be any balance changes when it comes to weapons? Are you guys looking at changing any of the weapons? Do you have any stats on that?
I think the weapons perform fine. I think actually most weapons are actually really, really good where they're at now. They're not necessarily. I mean, the weapons are all designed. You gotta remember that weapons are weapons. You can't really change a lot of the inherent stats like the recoil and stuff. Some weapons just have an inherent amount of recoil and some don't. The Garand is a good example of a weapon that's very, very easy to spam out, but it's absolutely garbage at any form of long range shooting due to its tiny little heap site. So the weapons themselves, I think they're actually in a really good place. I think the gunplay right now is where it should be. I don't think the weapons themselves need changing at all. I think the weapons are really, really good where they're at.
I agree with what Ghostkern just said. The Lebel, number one, absolutely. Lebel is the best bolt action in the game. The Kar 98 is poo. I'm just going to put that out there.
And the Enfield, though.
The Enfield's all right.
Here in the corner.
Oh yeah, you've got one in the corner. Chat can't see it, but I can see you've actually got a gun. All right, calm down. I don't want any trouble, Snazzy. Let's keep this all safe now.
It has a bayonet too.
Now you're starting to worry me a little bit.
Yeah, don't come for my hoodie.
Ghostkern also asks, will we ever see weapons? I can't pronounce these. He says the Volkssturm weapons, the VG5 or whatever they are. No. Because
they were made basically. They are basically like last-ditch effort weapons made to defend Berlin. They were not issued to frontline troops, and they were not used during any of the battles that we featured.
Okay, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Dark Soul _17 asks, will there ever be a possibility to shoot down strafes or bombing runs with flaks?
We'd like to expand on the airstrike system. There's a lot of things we'd like to do for the airstrike system and make it better. One thing we talked about internally is we'd like to make a smart airstrike system where within a reasonable distance from where you call in a target, the aircrafts can guide themselves roughly. So if you have a plane strafe, you tell it roughly where the enemies are, and if the enemies are within a certain area or not covered by trees, say they're running through a field, the plane can sort of self-target what you want to go for. which would make the airstrike system a lot more useful to commanders than it is now. Where
So
the airstrike system is not really useful at anything other than destroying MSPs or hurting vehicles.
if you called in a strafe, for example, in a certain area, you could also prioritize what to target. So if it's prioritize them to tell, like, attack any trucks or infantry, something like that.
Something along those lines. The idea basically is to essentially to make a system where the plane, or quote unquote the pilot, knows what he is knows how to fly the aircraft, and he can adjust the path of the aircraft to align with, say, ground targets or vehicles.
Okay. The Car 98 is not the best. It is poo, and I will stick by that fact. Dark Soul also asks, are we getting the Eastern Front? I think Chapter Red is going to be a mod for that. So, BIA Johnny Depp asks, 1k supply drop as the commander could be a cool asset. So, any comment on that, maybe?
1k seems excessive. That's a lot of supplies. Maybe 500. Maybe something like 500. Maybe you can drop an airdrop with a little bit of supply somewhere on the map. That could be the interesting mechanic. Maybe because 1,000 supplies, you can put down, with 500 you can put down a FOB, and with a FOB you can put down free stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of maybe an airdrop where you can drop 500 supplies somewhere on the map.
So
I think Chapter Mercury actually does that.
They do.
Really,
they do.
Cool.
I
like that, and I like it.
So is there a possibility that the commander might get more assets in the future? Is there something you guys are working on?
Possibly.
Okay.
We'd like to do stuff like Naval Warfare or more targeted weapons or area denial weapons, if you will. We'd like to expand on the artillery system, give more options to how you want the artillery barrage to happen. Like, you want it to be walking barrage, or do you want it to be, point barrage, like a specific point or area denial? How big do you want the area? That sort of stuff.
Acid2577 asks, I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it, and I'm sorry to disappoint you. Is there going to be a Finnish front?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Not. It's not planned right now.
Carl
like I said, Chapter 4 is the priority right now. So what comes after Chapter 4, we don't know.
And Carl also asks, are there going to be an Estonian map? And I don't know. No one cares.
That goes under the same vein.
No one cares about Estonia, Carl.
Refer to my last answer.
I've got a couple more questions from the community that I had during the run-up to this. Ivan Kovac from Discord, he's a member of the clan 369. Are there going to be any new nations to play? Maybe new vehicles or new maps like the Eastern Front? So we've kind of gone over that, but if you want to, just mention it.
Again, it's kind of a case of Chapter 4 is the priority right now, and what comes after Chapter 4, we don't entirely know yet.
Okay.
Making an entirely new faction is a lot of work. So what we're going to do next, I'm not sure. It's the only thing I do know is we're not going to do another Normandy map. It's going to be something else, something new, something fresh. But what exactly that will be, don't know yet.
Okay.
No clue.
One of the other questions I had, and someone's just put it in Twitch chat as well. MK24 from YouTube and Dark Souls from Twitch chat ask, could we possibly see a Bastonge new map? AKA Band of Brothers. I'm probably pronouncing that one. Bastogne.
4 is already like Band of Brothers related.
Okay.
As is Bastonge itself is planned as a map, but 4 is.
Okay.
What?
Yems from Discord said, will you enable EAC for Proton Steam Deck / Linux in a quality of life update? I have no idea what that means.
Maybe.
Okay. What is that?
Maybe.
Just explain to an idiot, like a sentence, what does that even mean?
It basically means whether you can play Post Scriptum on Linux or not.
On Linux, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And then I had Jackson Kingdom, who is another question from him, who was from Discord. And he said, are there any planned changes for the logistics and commander section? We've kind of mentioned that a little bit. that are on par with the armor system, such as a complete infantry overhaul?
No, we're not going to overhaul the infantry gameplay because the infantry gameplay is already good where it's at now. It doesn't need like an entire overhaul. There's no need for something like that. It's the infantry system as it is now is pretty good. It's in a good spot. It's not perfect, but it's certainly not where it requires an entire overhaul to be good.
Fair enough. That was basically all the questions that I had wrote down previously. So I'll keep looking at Twitch chat now and pulling some questions from them. How much time do you have, Snazzy? Do you still have some time to sit with us and talk with us?
Yeah, we go for some more.
Okay, Twitch chat, keep coming in those questions. If you put a question that we've already answered, I'll probably just skip it. And I'll just mention it briefly. Snazzy, is there anything else you can like maybe leak with us as well while I look for questions? Anything extra? A little bit juicy. You could just a little bit
maybe
more.
Look at the Ardennes map.
I mean, I'm down for that. Yeah, why not? Bring it out, man. It's Christmas almost. Come on, give us a little treat. There is a Africa expansion being made, Dark Soul. It's called Shifting Sands. Similar to Chapter Mercury, so be sure to check that out. Are there any plans to add more info or markers for maps? That's one question from Don Gogo 3D.
More markers. I'm not entirely sure if we're gonna make more markers. Maybe. I don't think we've never really thought there was a really need for more. War markers. It's not. We could. It's definitely not a fact. It's definitely not a question whether we wish we could or couldn't. But we question of whether we'd want to make another.
Did you fix Did you fix a spelling mistake that I found?
Oh yeah, with double supply.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Shameful.
Soon.
Shameful.
Soon, TM, I think.
Soon, TM.
Soon, TM.
Atri asks, is there a possibility for a sword beach map? I think that's the British map, right? Like the British invasion.
I think that goes under the same vein as what we said with maybe we'll go back and add a map or two more for chapter 2 and 3.
Ooh. Okay, I'll just download those quickly.
You can pick the best one.
Why don't I show both?
Sure, they're the same area, but sure.
I'll show both. Let me just get them downloaded so I can show them better. I'll keep looking at chat. I'm trying to multitask here. Chat, keep feeding me those questions, and I'll keep throwing them out. Any surprise like when gore systems become public? I think there is already gore in the game, isn't there? But I see limbs flying all. But what kind of gore do you need?
There's gore, yeah.
Yeah, there is gore. I'd say there's more gore in Post Scriptum than I say in any other FPS game. I would say. So
I don't think there is, but there's a lot of gore. Yeah.
So just quickly before I show these, what map is this again? Ardennes, correct?
So this is just it doesn't have any sticker or any stamps on it, but it's basically the Ardennes map, which is the symmetrical armored map that's coming for. Basically, as an extra map for tanking.
So here you go, chat. Here's another little sneak peek at the Ardennes. And I know a little bit about the Ardennes. I've watched some YouTube videos. That was like very thick tree lines where the Germans originally in World War II, right? They push through in World War I and World War II. They tried to push through.
Yeah, it's basically an excuse for us to make very dense woodlands to cover up sight distances. It's basically the excuse we're going with here.
Yeah. All right.
So the Ardennes is actually based on any real location other than in name.
Yeah.
It's purely made up.
Okay, I showed the first one. Let me just grab the second one quickly as well, and I'll show that one. A second, chat. And there is the second one. Very nice. A lot more. So have you guys started like? There's clearly been like an advance from chapter 1 to chapter 2, chapter 3 with the graphical overhauls. Are you guys making new graphics for this? Are you overhauling graphics? Because it looks very impressive on my end. I'm not sure how well it comes out on Steam.
A lot of it isn't even graphics. A lot of it is just level design, making nice level and making nice assets. Maginot kind of sets the new standard for what we expect from a map in terms of look and quality. With bearing in mind that Maginot, compared to the fact that it's so huge and so dense of stuff to do and so many assets, it's a very nice map performance-wise. It runs really well where it is now, and I think we'd like for that trend to continue.
Okay, awesome. Let me
making maps is very much making maps for us is very much a balance between gameplay and realism. And we want a map to look believable, but we don't want it to be too much to the real thing to where it suffocates gameplay in one way or another. So we take some liberties in some of our maps here and there, just so it plays better. It's more fun to play.
Okay. Amish asks, can we make the mortars that are free with FOBs be placed further away? I think that's what he's trying to say, so they don't give away the position of the FOB.
Well, no, because the point is for them being free is the con of them being free is that they're on a fob. So it's pro versus con. You can put it on a fob, but you risk exposing your fob, or you could put it not on a fob, but it costs more to put down. So it's Amish, I think the mechanic is fine. Whereas
just get a better logistics squad. That's what you need to do. Shout at your Logi to do their job better. That's
don't shout at the lobby. That doesn't help.
No, shout at them. Or otherwise they won't get better. You got to shout. You got to be aggressive. You got to shout, or else they'll never learn. Okay, let's keep going down this list. Is there a possibility that classes could be reworked and new classes being added?
We talked about making new classes, but we haven't actually decided on what we'd want to do with the classes. I think the classes where they are now are very, very nice. Making more classes is a case of they need to serve a purpose. Each class has to serve a purpose somewhere. And there aren't really any classes we don't have already that will serve a purpose that any other class can't. Right, the Sapper Pioneer, they serve the explosive role.
Yeah.
The mortar and rifle grenadier serve the purpose of long range grenades.
One of the recent changes.
The AT kit is your anti-tank or anti-vehicle guy. Your machine gunner is your suppression mechanic.
One of the recent changes I like is when the on chapter 3, the Volkssturm squad leader can now get the FG whatever it's called when they've got a full squad.
Assuming he has a full squad, yeah.
Full squad, yeah. I actually like that change. It makes it adds a little bit more charm, and it just makes it feel a bit more special. Especially it rewards a good squad leader who's trying to keep his squad together, communicating, so he can get that unique.
It rewards being a squad leader because you get the chance to play with a weapon that traditionally only one guy in your squad gets, and if you're a squad leader, you miss out on getting to use the weapon. Why should you? You should have the ability to use that weapon just as well as the guy in your squad should. But the requirement for that is that the squad is full, which is fair by my standards, because it is a very strong weapon. The FG42.
It is.
It's incredibly potent because it's basically a Car 98 in fully automatic with a bipod.
And it looks cool.
It looks cool. Sounds
exactly.
Cool. It's aggressive. It's aggressive.
Eventually, when you get to a point where you don't pick the most optimized weapon, the most effective weapon, you pick what looks cool because you want to look cool. That's why I like using the Thompson. It's not as good as the MP40.
If you want to be a try-hard German squad leader, you pick the ST44.
Yeah, but if you want to be cool, you go with like the Car 98 or the FG42. Commandant, I'm just going to clarify his question. It wasn't about Gore. He was asking, are there going to be any surprise updates? Anything you guys are holding secret and like you're just going to drop on the community?
Well, then if we told you, it's not a surprise, is it?
Exactly, Commandant. You got to think this through, man.
It wouldn't be a surprise if we told you. So we won't.
Dylan asks, what kind of new admin/server additions are planned for the quality of life update?
I think we already went over this one, that there are planned one, but we haven't decided on which ones are coming yet. That's to be decided with the quality of life.
And we
haven't fully started on the quality of life yet, so we can't say what's going to be in
Okay.
what isn't going to be in. Too early to say.
He also asks about the possibility of digging down rallies. Is that still planned? He asks, question mark.
Yeah, we want additional options to how you can take down rallies when you don't have explosives. We dabbled a couple of deals, especially when you have rallies that are in positions where they ordinarily can't be destroyed, like underwater or whatever. We want ways of destroying them, even if they are underwater. So yeah, there's something coming. It's a question of when and what that will be.
Don Gogo asks, is there a possibility of changing loadouts without having to respawn, like holding F on an FOB to change your loadout or something like that?
I mean, we could and we might. I think the biggest problem is you're often never near your spawn point anyway. When you want to change your kit, you're often in the middle of combat. So whether or not it's a necessary change is the big question. We might. I'm not saying no.
Fair enough.
It's easy to do, don't get me wrong, but question whether we feel the need to. We might.
Fair enough. I like this name. Sippy Cup Gaming asks, are there any plans to go back to the older maps and update them with the level of detail like the newer maps? So I imagine interiors and things like that. No. Okay.
Not at the moment. It's just too much work. It's basically you're spending your time making what is essentially a whole new map. And that time is better spent actually making a new map than updating the old ones. Not also because we don't have assets to fill the houses with yet.
Okay.
All the assets we have are made for the houses that came with Chapter 2 and Chapter 3.
Yeah.
They won't really fit into Chapter 1 that well.
Okay.
Because the buildings in Chapter 1 are very small.
Yeah.
Or they have very crammed interiors, which, as far as I can understand, that's normal for the Netherlands. But
yeah, they live in small houses. They're funny people.
I don't know. Big people, small houses.
FCH1Z0 asks, are there any quality of life updates coming with squad leaders? Issues with people wanting to be a squad leader? Is there any ideas to try and encourage people to be squad leaders in any way?
I mean, you can't encourage a person to be squad leader more than they want. If they don't want to be a squad leader, they want to be a squad leader. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So the stance I have on it is if you don't want to be a squad leader, you don't start a squad. If you get thrown the squad leader on you, there's no way we can encourage you to be a squad leader if you don't want to be a squad leader. It's just that simple. You can't force people into a role they don't want. We can give you the information you need to understand how to be a squad leader, but that's as far as we can go to encourage you to play a squad leader. There's a couple of things we want to do for the squad leader. We want to be better at telling players when they become a squad leader, or when someone gives you a squad leader, when you gives you the squad leader role. But there's no real way to like force players into taking the role.
Yeah. Okay. Menu asks, I think it's more of a bug menu. He asks, he had the possibility to play an SMG alone on Maginot when in a squad, with the risk to have a squad of one officer with an M. I think that must be a bug, right? He played MG. He played an SMG in a squad alone.
No, I think the French FL gets it.
Yeah, the squad leader gets it, right?
Yeah, the commander.
Yeah, Menu. Yeah.
Those team off. It seems
the Mass 36 or whatever it's called.
Or Mass 38, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Gun. I love that thing. I think it's adorable.
It's good. It's a nice little toy gun. I like it. Dark Soul asks, realism is good, but needing to drink water so often to get stamina back. No soldier runs 200 meters needing stamina. So he's talking about the stamina. Is there any ideas to change the stamina system? Are you guys happy with it? Yeah, things like that.
I think we're pretty happy with where it is now. We haven't really changed it that much. We've changed it a few times. But where it is now, I think it's pretty solid where it is now. I don't think there's any planned changes. I haven't seen enough complaints to warrant any changes anyway. Other than the normal change, the normal complaints of it's either it's too bad, or either it's too punishing, or it's not punishing enough.
Fair enough. Menu, it doesn't sound like a book, man. It sounds like you can just do it there. He excited for Callum asks, are you excited for Unreal Engine 5? I think that's what it means. UE5 Unreal Engine. That must be Unreal Engine.
UE5 is it's interesting. It's an interesting technology. It's an interesting push in terms of technology, but it's still far away from being ready to be used in a production environment. And even when it does, I don't think PS will ever go there. It's just too much work. I think it'll be too much of a jump.
Yeah, I have no idea about that kind of stuff. As long as it just doesn't turn into Fortnite, I'm happy. When I think Unreal Engine, I just think Fortnite. I'm like, no, please no. I think that's pretty much it for questions. I tried to get through any of them. Chat, I'm sorry if I missed any. I'll give you an extra couple of minutes just to throw any extra questions here at the end. Snazzy,
yeah, we can always chat shit in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, how are you doing, Snazzy? Are you excited for Christmas?
Oh man, I actually have my Christmas hat here.
You got a Christmas hat?
Yeah, of course.
I have a Christmas hat. My Christmas hat is I've had my Christmas hat for 9 years now. It's covered in sick.
It barely fits.
It barely fits. You got a fat head.
Yeah, there we go. I gotta have it all over my head, so it barely fits.
But yeah, I've got a Christmas hat and it's covered with sick. It's covered with mud. I've had it for 9 years, and it's kind of a tradition at this point. I'm gonna pass it at some point down to my children, and their children are gonna have it. Amazing. So you looking forward to Christmas?
Of course. Hate the hassle though. Mostly I'm looking forward to drinking.
True. Drinking, free food, and just time off work is always the best thing.
Not having to do work is always great.
The older you get, that is the more important thing. Having time off work, food, and drinking. You don't care about anything else.
In especially in my line of work, holiday isn't really a thing you get. Christmas is really the only holiday I really have across the entire year. So it's the only time I really have to unhook from PS and the community. As much as I love my community, they can be stressful to work with 340 something days a year.
I imagine. Just Press is asking what your favorite drink is.
Rum.
Exactly.
Rum.
Best.
Rum is always good. You can always have rum. Doesn't matter when. Doesn't matter where.
Exactly. The third-party content is chapter red and other chapter mods. Is that a question, Pingu? I imagine it is. So yeah, when you're talking about the third-party content, are you talking about specific mods, or are you talking about standalone content,
any modded content?
Okay.
Any modded content.
And anyone making modded content should come talk to you about getting it integrated.
If they're interested.
Yeah.
If they're interested in possibly working with us, yeah. In the future, anyway.
Ghost says he loves you and he appreciates everything you do. As well as tank interiors. No tank interiors. None. What's that Enfield anyway?
We are not doing tank interiors. There's no way.
Money, time, expensive. Optimization wise, it would be it's just another thing to cause FPS issues.
Far too expensive. Not worth it.
And
we did it with the M10 and the MA and the M18, but we're not doing it.
They're open top, so they're a little bit different, really.
They need it, otherwise they won't.
And I will say, as a person who mains tanks, if my tank crew is too busy looking at the interior, oh, this is a really nice interior, and not looking through the periscope for the AT sitting in a bush, you get out my tank. Get out. You gotta have your eyes on. We're there to win. You're not there to look at pretty things. You're there to keep the tank alive and get many kills. Okay. Talk about that Enfield, Snazzy, the gun you have. What is it?
It's in the back there. It's an Enfield number 4.
Why do you have that?
Why don't you have that?
I live in England. I'm not allowed to have that.
You made it. Made in Britain.
Yeah.
That one is made in Canada, but
made in Britain doesn't mean anything.
It's a British rifle.
I would say so. My granddad served just after World War II. My granddad was the character. As a kid, I recently found out through Post Scriptum, as a kid, my granddad gave me a 5 clip of Enfield bullets that he brought home from the army. He gave me them, and I recently found out they were meant for an Enfield because I saw they looked very similar to the gun used in game through the reload animation. So I looked into it, I researched it. Turns out they were for an Enfield. He gave me them,
There you go.
and turns out they wasn't deactivated though. given at the time I was about 5 years old, and I had them all the way up until I was like 16, 17. Giving a child 5 live bullets probably isn't the best thing. He also,
in case the Germans attack again.
yeah, we also found a revolver while on a walk one day, an old like Enfield revolver. He gave me that as well, as like a child. Luckily no bullets in that one, and
no problem. He seems very chill.
But the best thing is, again, he brought things home from his time in the army. He had a doorstop for his house, and it was an old tank shell. Don't ask me what kind of tank shell. It was pretty big. It was like a foot long, pretty decent sized tank shell. Big. And he was using that as a doorstop for ever since he came home from the army 50 so years ago. A couple of years ago, before he passed away, a police officer, friendly, he lived in a small village, everyone knew everyone. A police officer would go down and make routine assaults, make sure everyone's okay. Noticed the tank shell. They started talking about it, having a little bit of, just a little conversation about it. Turns out, similar to the Enfield bullets my granddad gave me, this tank shell had not been deactivated. So for the last 50-something years, his door kept banging against this tank shell, and he had a heavy door. He lives in like an old farmhouse. He had a fully wooden door, just slamming against this tank shell for the last 50 years. Not only that,
luckily bullets don't just explode. It takes a lot of impact to make one of those explode.
But not only that, he would allow us as kids growing up, his grandchildren, to play with it. Throw it around, as kids do, as young boys, me and my cousins did, throwing it around, pretending we were in the army and stuff. And in the end, it got taken away by a bomb squad and blown up in the middle of a field.
So, of course, that's what they do with all ammunition. Yeah. The rifle back there is a number 4 Mark 1 Star, meaning it was made in Canada. It's a Canadian-produced rifle. It's from 1943, and it served with the Canadian Armed Forces through D-Day, and was eventually sold to the Danish Army, or was given to the Danish Army after the war, and then it was basically held in Danish storage for several decades, and then it was sold on an auction, and a gunsmith bought it, who I bought it.
Fair enough.
An old ass rifle.
Just in case.
Still fires, still original barrel.
Just in case condition. The Germans or the Russians decide to have another crack at it, I guess.
Just in case they decide that they want to come back.
I'll happily just put my hands up.
Yeah, that's why it has everything, like including the original cleaning kit. The bayonet is still on there. The sight is like a 1943, 1944 production sight. So not the one we have in game with the large sight, but it's basically the same sight that you have on the M1 carbine. The flip sight. It's either 100 or 300 yards and 600 yards or 900 yards. Same thing with that one. Basically just a two-way flips with a two-way flip sight. Fair
enough. Don Gogo asks, are there any plans to update the mortars, how they work currently? People use a mortar calculator. Is there any way to change how the mortars work?
Don't think there's any plans to change the mortar. I think the mortars where they are now, it's fine. Whether people use a mortar calculator, it's kind of up to them, I think. We don't include a mortar calculator in the game, for the same reason Squad doesn't really do it either.
Yeah. And I think another question, is there a way to practice using them? I imagine in the firing range.
Yeah, use a firing range, or go to any of the maps and put down mortar, and then test with it. You have on the firing range, you can't spawn in. You don't have any spawned vehicles, but you can always go to Bray's armored map or Bray's proving ground map.
Yeah. And if you want to do mortars realistically, Dangerous DB, another Post Scriptum partner.
Oh yeah, he does.
You could print them
manually.
You can print out the map and he does all real life calculations. He has a mortar calculator thingy, and he has the map printed out on his desk, and then he uses all the calculations to do them in real life, and it works in game. It's accurate. So just press ask. What games do you play outside of Post Scriptum?
I don't really play a whole lot of games. Mainly, if I do play anything outside, it's probably going to be something like DCS, I imagine.
Don't have time. We're adults now. Like,
don't have time.
Real life world.
I spend more of my time sleeping on the couch or watching TV than games. DCS, DCS is a game I've played for.
What's DD? What's
many years? DCS?
Yeah.
It's like a flight.
Okay.
Very detailed flight.
Okay. Sounds boring. I don't like games like that.
Both me and my boss, and both me and Bray play together too.
And you think
we have our own. We use our own developer server to run a multiplayer game on it.
Oh.
And we'll play.
Maybe you should do a community night. Invite people from the community to come play. I mean, I won't. I don't like planes, screw planes. But get the community in there. In terms of questions, I think that's about it. I think most people are pretty, they've got their questions asked. I try to cover every community question as possible. So,
yeah, I think we've got most of the big ones answered.
So, chapter 4, when that's about to come out, you're gonna have to hook me up so we can get like an exclusive look, right? And I get to have first dibs on playing it, and we can have like another interview and stuff and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious when we'll have a chance to show off.
And
show off the back.
You're gonna send me that hoodie, to just figure it out, and good. Chat. I think that's it. So Snazzy, unless you've got anything to add, I'll let you get back on with your day. Yeah.
No, thank you for having me. Thanks for having me come on, talk to you, have a drink.
Cheers.
It's about night time. I gotta go up again tomorrow. We got a birthday tomorrow. I gotta go to. So
good luck.
It won't be too late of a night, but I appreciate it.
No worries. I appreciate you joining me, and thank you, chat, as well, for posting the questions. So Snazzy, I'll let you go. Bye bye. I'm gonna continue streaming for a while because it's Saturday. My girlfriend's away, so I'm gonna go play some games or something. So, yeah.
Absolutely perfect. I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one, and yeah.
Bye bye. Bye bye, Snazzy. Bye. Bye. He's gone, chat. Oh, quick. Hide my screen before I leak it. Before I leak anything. How do I hide it? That's the duck. There we go. Chat. That was Snazzy. I hope you enjoyed the stream, chat. And a big thank you to last month's Twitch subscribers: Willdale303, Yeetus McFeetus 69420 MLG, Yusus, Epics True, Just Press _, Hinkle _, Blomhauser, Coeyboy013, Lazy Titanium 145, Skyros, Ion9 _ Lysander, Liberated, Mutlurk, Case25, Kaiser NG, Jabes MX, Merpinator, The CJ Reed, Callum Derp, Morning Calf, Tom the Milkman, Unheroic Isaac, Luna the Gamer Fox, Sash363VD, Bored Out of My Head, Call Me Davro, Bro Lifer, and It's Carl's Design.